Sophia, a stepmother, often found herself enveloped in solitude. Her husband, James, was a driven entrepreneur, fully consumed by his work, while she admired his ambition. She longed for simple gestures of affection, something as small as a touch or a sign that he noticed her. Over time, their marriage had settled into a predictable rhythm, devoid of excitement. Sophia's days blended together in their vast home, with the silence and her own thoughts as her only companions. That changed when her stepson, Liam, moved back, and at 25, Liam exuded vitality, with a self-assuredness that seemed to light up every room he entered. He had just returned from studying abroad, bringing with him an air of sophistication and charm. Sophia couldn't help but notice how his laughter seemed to breathe life into the house, filling its once quiet spaces. Make sure to subscribe to my channel so I can continue bringing you more fascinating true stories like this one. And don't forget to watch this video till the end and like the video, because this story is going to be incredibly interesting. One evening, after taking a shower, Sophia stood before the mirror drying her hair. She reached behind her to unclasp her bra, letting it slip off her shoulders before tossing it onto the bed. For a moment, she looked at herself in the mirror, her bare chest rising and falling with a soft sigh. Dressed only in her bottoms, she felt exposed yet free in the privacy of her room. Suddenly, the door creaked open, and Sophia turned quickly, instinctively covering herself. "Liam," she gasped, his face flushed crimson as he quickly looked away, though his gaze lingered a fraction longer than was appropriate. "I'm sorry, I thought you were downstairs," he apologized, his voice full of embarrassment. Her heart raced, a mix of embarrassment and something deeper she couldn't quite identify. "You need to knock," she said, though her voice was softer than she intended. "I'm sorry," Liam muttered. "I'll go," he added. But he didn't move. Instead, his gaze shifted back to hers, his expression torn between regret and something else. "Liam," Sophia began, her tone gentler, "it's fine, just close the door, please." He obeyed, shutting the door behind him but hesitating to leave. "I didn't mean to walk in on you," he said quietly, his eyes fixed on the floor. "But I can't stop thinking about you." Sophia froze. "What do you mean?" she asked softly. Liam took a step forward, his confidence returning. "I've always admired you, Sophia," he confessed. "But now that I'm back, it's more than that. I see you, and I can't look away." Sophia felt a lump in her throat, the air between them thick with unspoken emotions. "Liam, this is wrong," she whispered. He interrupted. "Then why does it feel so right?" Before she could respond, he was standing before her, his hand brushing her arm, sending a chill down her spine. She didn't pull away. Instead, she met his eyes, her own resolve crumbling. "You're young. You don't understand what you're saying," she murmured, though her words lacked certainty. "I know exactly what I'm saying," he replied. "You deserve to feel wanted and loved." His words melted her defenses. When he leaned in, she didn't stop him. Their lips met in a hesitant kiss, one that deepened as passion took over. Liam's hands rested on her waist, his touch firm but gentle, as if afraid to break the spell. Sophia allowed herself to get lost in the kiss, her arms wrapping around his neck. For the first time in years, she felt desired, alive, and cherished. When they finally pulled away, their breath ragged, Sophia spoke, her voice trembling. "Liam," she whispered. "We shouldn't be doing this," he softly replied, "but we already have." His forehead rested against hers. Sophia closed her eyes, torn between her heart's desire and the voice of reason. But as Liam gently cupped her cheek, she knew this moment would change everything. She stepped back, her arms instinctively crossing over her chest as the weight of what had just happened sank in. Her heart hammered in her chest, and the sound drowned out all her thoughts. Liam stood there, his breathing uneven, his gaze unyielding. "We can't," she whispered again, though the words didn't convince either of them. "This isn't right." Liam moved closer, his voice gentle but firm. "Tell me you didn't feel something, Sophia." Tell me you don't feel this between us. He held her hands, placing them gently on his chest, and began kissing her again. Sophia tried to open his pants as they got lost in the moment, forgetting all about their relationship. She looked up at him, her lips trembling as she searched for an answer. The truth was undeniable. Liam, it's complicated, she whispered. It doesn't have to be, he replied, reaching for her hand. His fingers brushed hers, sending a spark through her that she couldn't ignore. I don't care about the rules, about what anyone thinks. I care about you. Sophia pulled her hand away, crossing her arms tightly over her chest. You don't understand what you're saying. This is dangerous, Liam, for both of us. Then let it be dangerous, he insisted, urgency in his voice. I've never felt this way before, Sophia. I can't just pretend it doesn't exist. Her resolve wavered under the intensity of his words and the warmth of his gaze. She turned away, trying to steady her racing heart. You need to go, she whispered, her voice barely audible. Please, Liam. Liam hesitated for a moment, his jaw tightening, debating whether to push further. Finally, he nodded, though the pain in his eyes was unmistakable. All right, he said softly, moving toward the door. Before leaving, he glanced back at her, his eyes full of longing. But this isn't over, Sophia. I know you feel it too. The door clicked shut, leaving Sophia alone, her thoughts a whirlwind of emotions and desire. She sank onto the edge of her bed, burying her face in her hands. What had she done? The next few days passed in a haze of avoidance. Sophia immersed herself in housework and errands, finding any excuse to stay busy and keep away from Liam. But no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't escape the memory of his touch, his words, and the fire they had kindled between them. Liam, however, wasn't one to be ignored. Late one evening, as Sophia stood washing dishes in the kitchen, she heard his footsteps behind her. I can't keep pretending everything's normal, he said, his voice steady but filled with emotion. Sophia set the dish down and turned to face him. Liam, we agreed. No, he interrupted, stepping closer. You agreed. I never did. Please, don't make this harder than it already is, she begged, her voice trembling. I'm not trying to make it harder, he said, his tone softening. I'm trying to make it real. Before she could protest, he closed the gap between them. His hands gently cupped her face, his lips brushed against hers, tentative but seeking permission. This time, Sophia didn't resist. She leaned in, her hands gripping his arms as the floodgates finally opened. The kiss deepened, filled with all the unspoken emotions that had been building. Liam's hands moved to her waist, pulling her closer. For the first time in years, Sophia felt truly desired. When they pulled apart, their foreheads touched, breaths ragged and hearts racing. We'll figure this out, Liam whispered, his voice filled with determination. Together. Sophia closed her eyes, her heart torn but unable to deny the pull she felt toward him. For the first time, she allowed herself to believe in the possibility of something more, something forbidden but impossible to resist. The following days became a careful dance, each exchange between Sophia and Liam filled with tension neither could ignore. They exchanged fleeting glances in the kitchen, subtle brushes of fingers when passing each other in the hall. Despite Sophia's initial resistance, the wall she had built around her heart began to crumble. One quiet evening, as the house settled into a peaceful lull, Liam found Sophia sitting alone on the porch swing. The warm summer air surrounded them, the distant chirp of crickets providing the only sound. She looked up as he approached her, her face illuminated by the soft porch light. Can't sleep? He asked, his voice low so as not to disturb the peaceful night. She shook her head, patting the seat next to her. Too much on my mind. Liam sat down, the swing creaking beneath them. For a moment, they sat in silence, the tension between them palpable. I've been thinking about you, he admitted, finally breaking the quiet. Sophia turned to him, her lips parting in surprise. Liam, he interrupted gently, his eyes locking with hers. Let me say this, you're all I think about. Sophia, you've taken over every part of my mind, and I can't keep pretending that I don't feel what I feel. Her breath caught, and she looked away, focusing on the dark horizon. It's not that simple, she whispered. It is, he insisted, his voice gaining strength. We feel something for each other, something real. Why fight it? Sophia turned back to him, her eyes filled with both longing and fear, because it's not just about us. There are consequences. Liam, people would never understand. Liam reached for her hand, his thumb brushing over her knuckles. I don't care what anyone else thinks. All I care about is you. His words broke something inside her. The restraint she clung to for so long dissolved, and she leaned forward, her lips capturing his in a kiss that was both desperate and tender. Liam responded immediately, his hand slipping to the back of her neck to deepen the kiss. Their connection was electric, a fusion of suppressed passion and raw emotion. The swing rocked slightly as Liam pulled her closer, his other hand resting on her waist. Time seemed to stand still as they lost themselves in each other. The rest of the world faded into insignificance. When they finally pulled apart, their foreheads rested together, their breaths mingling in the warm night air. Sophia opened her eyes, her heart pounding as she looked at him. This changes everything, she murmured. Good, Liam said with a soft smile, because I don't want to go back to pretending. Sophia let out a shaky laugh, her emotions a whirlwind of joy and uncertainty. We're going to have to figure this out. We will, he promised, his hands still holding hers. Together, the night stretched on, but for the first time, Sophia felt a glimmer of hope, a belief that maybe, just maybe, their love could survive the challenges ahead. As the weeks turned into months, Sophia and Liam found themselves navigating an increasingly complex web of emotions and secrets. Their passion burned bright, but the weight of their relationship's implications loomed like a shadow over their happiness. One evening, after a particularly heartfelt conversation, Sophia made a decision. Sitting together in her bedroom, she held Liam's hands in hers, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. We can't keep doing this, Liam, she said softly, her voice trembling. Liam's face fell, the hope that had sustained him flickering like a dying candle. Why, I thought we were building something real. We were, she whispered, squeezing his hands tightly, and it was beautiful. But it can't last. The world won't let it. She took a shaky breath, her voice breaking. I love you, Liam. That's why I have to let you go. He shook his head, his own eyes misting. No, we can find a way. We can leave, start fresh somewhere else. I'll give you everything. Sophia, just don't walk away from this. Her heart ached at his plea, but she knew what she had to do. You deserve more than a love built on secrecy and fear. You deserve a life where you don't have to look over your shoulder, where you don't have to question if what we have is right or wrong. Liam cupped her face, his thumbs brushing away her tears. You're the only thing that feels right. Without you, nothing else matters. Sophia leaned into his touch, memorizing the feel of his hands on her skin, the way his love made her feel alive. But as much as she wanted to stay, she knew their story had reached its end. They shared one last lingering kiss, pouring every ounce of their love and longing into that moment. When they finally pulled apart, they rested their foreheads together, both unwilling to let go just yet. I'll never forget you, she murmured, her voice barely audible. You'll always be in my heart, he replied, his own voice thick with emotion. With that, Sophia stepped back. The distance between them felt like a chasm. Liam watched as she turned and walked away, her silhouette disappearing down the hallway. He didn't stop her. He knew that this was her way of protecting them both, even if it meant breaking their hearts. Years later, Sophia sat in a cafe, sipping her coffee as she watched the world bustle around her. Her life had moved on, but the memories of her time with Liam still lingered bittersweet and cherished. She smiled softly as she traced her finger over the rim of her cup, the echoes of their love a quiet reminder of what once was. Across the room, a familiar figure caught her eye. Liam, their gazes met, and for a moment, it felt like no time had passed at all. He smiled at her, a mixture of warmth and wistfulness in his expression. She returned the smile, her heart swelling with a strange blend of joy and melancholy. Neither of them approached, but in that brief exchange, they both understood their love, though fleeting, had left an indelible mark on their souls, and sometimes that was enough.